Imagine you're a new player attempting to beat Chapter 3 Moon. You already gathered all the treasures in Empire of Cats, which took you quite a while to do. Your normal cats all have true forms due to a good amount of plus levels, so you figured that Moon 3 would be beatable now. You go into the stage, start stacking dragons like the usual strategy, but upon reaching the base, something different happens. In the video you saw for beating Moon 3, Bonneton spawns when the base goes to around 600,000 HP. But here, you've gone under 600,000 HP and Bonneton hasn't spawned yet. Weird. You keep attacking the base, and the health keeps falling, but Bonneton is nowhere to be seen. Eventually, you destroy it entirely without fighting the boss. What happened? Where's Bonneton? Why didn't he spawn? Is this some sort of a glitch? Well, actually, it's not a glitch, but rather a side effect of an intended mechanic. In the Battle Cats, stages can only have a certain number of enemies at a time, denoted by the enemy limit. This is different for each stage in the game, and on Empire of Cats Chapter 3 Moon, the limit is 8 enemies. When you use a strong Eraser Cat, he does such a good job at defending your cats that he actually ends up trapping 8 of the supporting enemies here behind the base, meaning that Bonneton has no room to spawn. As long as you don't kill them, which should be easy due to them sitting behind the base, you can take it out completely, skipping all the difficulty in this stage. What we witnessed here is what the community likes to call a cheese strategy. Although not explicitly said, let's define a cheese strategy as a strategy that clears a stage in an unintended way and avoids some aspect of the stage while doing so. There's many different types of cheese strategies in the game, so let's start looking at them. The enemy limit cheese, which I just showed you with Moon 3, is a pretty well known one, relying on filling up the enemy limit to prevent bosses and other important enemies from spawning. This is usually done in a stage which has a low enemy limit, and with both a boss on base hit and enemies that spawn before the base is hit. Here's some examples. On Lady in the Clink, you can stack 4 douches, which don't push very hard, and knock them back with Honeylune, Godcat, or Breaker Blast until they reach the base. Then use units like Golfer to take out the base while the douches are still alive. Because enemy limit in that stage is 4, you won't have to deal with the dangerous combination of Piggy variants. Similarly, a Moment of Serenity spawns infinite Mr. Angels before the base is hit. While they are normally peons who die easily, by using Eraser Cat variants with low damage, you can gently knock them back while also not killing them. If you get 5 Mr. Angels behind the base, Erasers can stall them while you take out the base for free, skipping the entire stage. Not all enemy limit cheeses have to be risky though. On Last Labyrinth, infinite Owlbros spawn before base hit. If you stack 10 of them up, you can knock them behind the base and take it out for free. Because Owlbro is such a laggy and easy enemy to stall, it's very easy to do this cheese, albeit a bit time consuming. On a similar vein, you can stack Owlbros and Cappies in Vulcanizer, preventing Manic Eraser from spawning. However, doing this one is much more inconsistent, as the game likes respawning a Snake that dies easily instead of Owlbro or Cappy when the limit is almost full, meaning you have to get a lucky respawn for Owlbro or Cappy to spawn before the Snake. After that's done, it's pretty simple to finish. Another way to fill the enemy limit is by abusing Miss Sign in certain stages. Miss Sign is an enemy that spawns every 15 minutes in some stages, like the Crazed and Manic stages, as well as almost all of Stories of Legend. On stages where the main threat spawns on base hit, it's possible to stall out and stack Miss Signs by keeping them alive in order to completely fill the limit. For some stages like Heaven's Oasis, this can be achieved easily by training out the start-off enemies, and then simply AFKing for 45 minutes with a speed up in order for the limit to fill. On other stages with infinite peons, like Shiver Junction, you may have to manually defend the peons while waiting for the limit to fill, making the cheese extremely tedious, albeit still possible. Zombie enemy corpses still count towards the enemy limit as well, and you can exploit this to cheat stages like Floodlight Extreme. By stalling the start off until it fills up with the thrillers, you can kill them all at once, then send Awakened Bahamut or other fast units past their corpses. The base still won't be activated due to the limit being filled with corpses, and once they revive, you can simply stall the thrillers off until the base is taken care of. On a stage like Panic Tower, enemy limit can come into play even when there isn't a boss wave. By rushing the stage with Awakened Bahamut and other rushers, there is normally a teacher bear that spawns on base hit to prevent you from cheesing the stage. However, if you make sure to fill the enemy limit with peons, such as zombies and their corpses, teacher bear will be unable to spawn, allowing you to freely take out the base. While this cheese does rely on enemy limit, it's also a rush cheese, which is where you destroy the base by rushing it before bosses or other important enemies spawn. Rush cheeses might be the most well-known type of cheeses, because they are very common. Electro Safari is an infamous stage for having tons of hard alien enemies, but by simply taking out the base before they spawn, you can skip the entire stage. Rush cheeses are usually only possible if a stage doesn't have a boss or immediate threat upon base hit, and instead spawns enemies based on timers. There's many stages this works on, such as Inspirational Mural, Chapel Transfer, Speechless Tongues, and more. Usually Awakened Bahamut is the go-to unit for this strategy, as he has both speed and extremely high DPS against enemy bases. In some cases, failing to destroy the base before the boss spawns can lead to an instant loss, while in other stages, you can continue and try to chip down what is left of the base after the main boss spawns. On a stage like Wrath of the Doge Lord, although Wawa spawns very quickly, by using many rusher units to keep knocking him back, you can prevent him from doing much damage and also reach the base to take it out before the enemy spam arrives. In a case like this, what our units did here is called clipping, where a cat or enemy moves through the other while the other is in a knockback state. When an enemy or cat is knocked back, either by damage, the knockback ability, cat cannon, or sniper power-up, their collision box is temporarily disabled, allowing the opposing unit to continue moving through them. On a stage like Last Gang, the player often uses units with the knockback against red ability, which both resets Nyandem's attack cycle and allows units like Crazed Giraffe to reach the base earlier and destroy it without having to take him out. On the release of Parade of the Dead, the Advent stage where you find Dabu, you used to be able to clip Bahamut partially into Dabu and have him not get hit by Dabu, cheesing the entire stage. This is because Dabu used to have an LD hitting from 0 to 800. Normally enemies do hit a little bit inwards with their attacks, but Dabu's range stopped at 0, meaning that units that clipped inside of him could avoid it. Ponos patched this by giving Dabu Omni Strike, allowing him to hit backwards to -700 range. However, this cheese is still possible with the right units and timings. You simply have to take out the base before Dabu kills Awakened Bahamut. This is also possible with Yukimura on Okame, as Okame hits from -200 to 800 range. This one is extremely precise due to how much range Okame covers, but is still doable. While partial clips can be useful for cheesing certain LD enemies or bases, it is possible to clip through an enemy entirely and bypass them, which opens up the door for even more clip cheeses. Full clipping is usually an extremely precise and difficult strategy to execute, even being frame perfect at times. For faster units like Bullet Train and Yukimura, you can clip through an enemy with just a single knockback. For slower ones, like Awakened Bahamut, you either need 2 knockbacks or speed combos to allow him to make it through. A well-known one is cheesing Forest Beast by clipping Bahamut through Manic Flying. By using the sniper power-up and knockback from the cat cannon, there's enough time for Bahamut to make it through Manic Flying and take out the base early. By utilizing the many sources of knockback in this game, it's possible to clip through many types of enemies. One particular strategy for Curry Comet involves clipping Bullet Train through Rain D to stall enemies behind it, while you Bahamut chain Rain D to death. It's a very stylish and cool way to beat this stage, which a lot of advanced cheeses can be at times. Did you know that Soractes was beatable no gacha? By using 2 sources of knockback, such as a sniper clip and a damage knockback, you can get Awakened Bahamut behind Soractes, and he can start taking out the base. By protecting him with clipped manic lines or bullet trains, he can survive the Doge Darks long enough to take out the base, and turn what was an impossible stage otherwise into a victory. To my knowledge, this was originally solved in BCKR, but was later beaten in BCJP, and extremely recently in BCEN. If you want to beat a very hard challenge just for flex privileges, then you can go ahead and try. Be warned though, this is one of the hardest strategies this game has ever created. In a similar manner, you can exploit units with the warp ability to allow your units to bypass bosses in a stage. On Glass Slippers and Andromeda, having Gardenil Bros warp forward a unit like Cat Machine or Warlock and Pier allows them to bypass the main threats and destroy the base easily. It doesn't always have to be Gardenil Bros though. On Puffer Planet, with precise timing you can warp Bahamut or other units with a star ping by using cat jobs, and have Puffsly roll past them while they are being warped, allowing you to bypass the boss in the stage. On Wanwan, his ridiculously long warp duration means that if you get units warped while he is at his base, by the time Wanwan reaches yours, your initially warped units will pop out behind him and be able to cheese the base. While cheeses like clipping can be very difficult to do, how about I show some cheeses that are much easier to pull off. Stun locking is another method to cheese stages, usually done on bosses so you can bypass them. Hermit, Eulala, and Master Ural can all be stun locked with a combination of Healer and Tourist Cat, rendering them unable to attack. This allows you to cheese the base while they are stuck helplessly doing nothing. Some bosses, like Mechabun, or this guy whose name I will not pronounce, are also able to be permafrozen with a stack of Necrodancers or Weed Whackers given good luck. Although I wouldn't call Mechabun's clear exactly a cheese, as it seems like this was what Ponos intended for the player to do. Zero Luza can even be stun-locked with a giant amount of Doctor Cats, constantly resetting his slow attack animation and preventing him from attacking. If an enemy isn't flagged as the boss, knocking them back will cause them to go behind the base, which means your crowd control units are unable to keep perma-stunning them. Although if they are behind the base, then you might just be able to take out the base before them anyways. On a stage like Sunset's Howl, you normally fight 3 Berserk Quarries, but with a ton of Catleys, you can continuously juggle them and knock them behind the base, allowing you to beat the stage without killing any. While the freeze and knockback abilities are the main ones used for this type of stunning, sometimes the enemy itself can be just juggled with rapid damage. Mr. Puffington is an enemy with 400 knockbacks, and can be knocked back with almost anything. On the stage Defaced Tombstone, Mr. Puffington is set as the boss, and by stacking a large amount of dark lasers, they spawn waves with lingering hitboxes and attack rapidly enough to where Mr. Puffington is stuck in a permanent juggle, allowing your units to not get hit by him and take out the base. This has even been done on Puffer Planet, where 2 perfectly timed bird cats are able to juggle the boss frame perfectly while Bahamut takes out the base. I wouldn't recommend trying this one, but it's just proof that it's possible. Enough abusing enemies. Let's start abusing our own units now. Golfer Cat is a ranged LD unit which only hits a certain area past his standing range. This means he is unable to attack the enemy he is directly facing, and can only hit behind them. This property allows him to be stacked to very large numbers on enemies before a base is hit, and with the DPS from 30 to 40 golfers, almost every stage that this works on gets shredded quickly. It doesn't always have to be golfer though. You can stack LT Ubers like Aphrodite, or legend units like Mina. You can stack Cyberpunk 2 of course, but whether you want to call cyber stacking a cheese strategy or just a feature of a certain unit is up to you. On Aku Realms Mexico, a popular cheese strategy involved luring a single Gabriel to the base and freezing it permanently with Healer. Then you would stack a giant amount of Minas until you had enough firepower to completely destroy the base, which would skip the stage. In scenarios like these, if there is a boss in the stage, doing enough damage to kill the base will instead set it to 1 HP before spawning the boss wave. You can get around this in 2 ways. The first is to simply finish off the last HP on the base, either with a rusher unit or an LD unit. A popular unit to finish off 1 HP bases is Eulala, due to his fast rusher speed and LD reach. The other method is by using a frame hit, a tactic where you hit the base exactly 1 frame after bringing it down to 1 HP, killing it the same time a boss wave comes out. Any unit can frame hit if timed well enough, but it does take a frame perfect timing to make it happen. This is why stacking units like Rice Ball can be useful when cheesing a stage with a frame hit. You can also stack target only units like Warlock and Pier or Saki, as long as they don't target the enemy that you are stalling. Because these units have naturally high damage from being target only, they are common ones used to cheese stages like this. On Facing Danger, where the base HP is naturally low, you don't even need to stack units. You can simply time units frame perfectly to be able to cheese the stage. Crazed Bahamut can also be stacked, but usually pushes forwards during this process. By stalling him on an enemy like Mr. Puffington, which you can repeatedly knock back due to his high knockback count, you can keep the Bahamuts in place and acquire many of them, allowing you to one-shot the base as long as you sync them up. Doing this is pretty difficult though, due to needing precise timing and a unit that does low damage to reset Puffington and keep him in the right spot. LD or far-reaching units in general can be used to attack past bosses and main enemies to chip the base down from afar. Learn to Love spawns its main boss instantly, but an LD unit like Courier is able to reach and destroy the base after even she spawns. On Shocking Exile, Nala is able to reach the base from afar, allowing you to beat the stage without even killing the face. She can also do this on Facing Danger, attacking past Cyberface to finish off the stage quickly. Another legend unit is also capable of cheesing Facing Danger, which is Soractes. Although Soractes doesn't have a far-reaching LD, due to his Conjure ability, he can summon a spirit to take out the base after he activates the boss wave, as the spirit is immune to the knockback from the boss wave itself. While summon units like Soractes can be used to finish off the base in 1 HP situations, like target-only stacking, he's pretty hard to time where his spirit can reach the base while also not activating the base early from Soractes' attacks himself. Chipping down the base is also possible without LD units if the boss stays near the base. In Manic Eraser, sometimes Bahamut or other backline Ubers can reach the base if Manic Eraser is pinned and knocked back while at the base. Over the course of the battle, this allows them to beat the stage early if they manage to do enough damage. These are most of the cheese strategy archetypes I know in the game, and most other cheese strats are usually variants of them, or even combinations. You can both rush a stage and stunlock a boss, both clog the enemy limit and clip through enemies, both stack LD units and frame hit a base, and the list goes on. The so-called healer cheese that is present on many stages is just one or multiple of these cheeses that I covered, but with healer as the primary enabler for that strategy at play, as his guaranteed freeze and low damage makes him a great catalyst for pulling these strategies off. As long as you know the rules of the game, you can develop many types of different cheese strats on the various stages in this game. For example, here I developed a strategy of stacking Green Shell and Cat Egg Pod on the start off of Kosamin runes, and then combine it with Golfer stacking and some other DPS units. When I reach the base, Slow Beam allows my many saved Green Shells and Egg Pods to reach the base and stall the Winged Piggies, allowing my DPS units and Golfer stack to take out the base, and cheese Kosamin runes no gotcha. With how many different types of cheese strategies there are, you might wonder how Ponos, the developers of the Battle Cats, would respond to them. Do they even know that they exist? Well, they most certainly do, and tend to have fun with it as well. Certain stages are intentionally designed to have the player use certain cheese strategies, such as rushing the base before a near impossible wave of Elder Sloth spawn in Cursed Blizzards. Clogging the enemy limit is also a must in stages like Veggie Friends or Ashen Rain, and Stars in the Tumbler has a built-in intended warp cheese to avoid a dangerous St. Dober fight. Goo H Ghouls is a stage with built-in Missign cheese, spawning enough after some time to prevent overbuffed angels from killing the player on base hit. It makes you wonder if these are actually cheeses, since Ponos does know and intend for the player to pull them off. But let's not get caught up in the definition of cheese here. While Ponos does recognize cheese strategies as part of the game, they don't always let them slide. Debu, as mentioned earlier, was given an Omni Strike to prevent the LD clip cheese, although that didn't really stop people from cheesing it. Miss Sign, which normally spawned in every stage in SOL, does not spawn anymore in UL, preventing the player from abusing sign cheese there. Ponos also can design stages with anti-cheese enemies, or certain enemies that spawn when the base loses a bit of HP to prevent players from cheesing them. They normally won't have an impact if the player plays the stage normally until they have already won, but do come out to stop the player if the stage is being cheesed. When players originally found out about a rush strat for the new Omens boss, Ponos ended up patching the stage with anti-cheese enemies on the very next update. Due to the existence of the new Midnight D on base hit, cheesing Omens with Bahamut was no longer possible. In new to update 13.3, Ponos added the Green Barrier, which prevents all damage done to a base while there is still a boss who is alive or able to spawn. Although Green Barrier isn't on all stages, we may see more stages in the future with it, limiting cheese potential. While Ponos does know about cheese strategies for sure, they can both take part in them and also prevent them from happening. It's hard to understand what Ponos' opinion is on cheese strategies, but we can understand what the community's opinion is on it. While some players aren't big fans of cheese strategies, due to the principle of them being cheesy, or due to their setup requirements sometimes being a long wait or needing power-ups, I think most players can appreciate a good cheese strategy to skip difficult or annoying stages. There's always stages now and then that you'll get frustrated by, and having a way out of it just makes the game progress a whole lot smoother. On the other hand, there are some stages that players recommend not cheesing, whether due to the stage being inherently fun or the normal clear being easier. Cheese strategies have a time and place, and while it's always nice to get past that annoying roadblock, it might not be the most fun idea to cyberstack every single stage in the game. But to each their own. Thanks for watching.